A rose by any other name would smell as sweet. Good morning, everybody. It's Stephen here for Bland Designs, and welcome to my weekly vlog for Monday, March the 2nd. Yes, March the 2nd, 2020, vlog number 157. And I hope everybody had a good weekend and are looking forward to this week. And hopefully here where I live in Canada, it'll warm up a little bit. We've had quite a bit of snow lately, and it's been fairly cold. And we're moving towards spring, and everybody here has got cabin fever. I know I do. And we just want to get rid of this stuff and start having a little warmer weather, which would be nice. Okay, so you saw my teaser, my freestanding rose, and here it is again, a little bit more detail. And I'm really happy with the way this turned out, although it was a bit of a pain in the butt to make. It is all embroidered on my machine, and it's called freestanding lace. Now, you've seen some of my freestanding lace creations before, like I did some angels at Christmas time, and I've done other things throughout the year. But now I'm trying my hand at making flowers. So the reason being is we have a vase full of old silk flowers that we've had probably in that vase for, oh my goodness, 20 years. And they're getting faded and worn looking and dated and all that kind of stuff. And so we thought we should, put something else in its place. And then I got the bright idea of looking for embroidery patterns for making flowers. And Walter's been making a few as well. Now, these take a long time. They take several hours to make. And then, as I said, you have to assemble them. And I tried different types of glue to get the petals to hold together. And all I found that really worked the best was a glue gun. But glue guns, I try to avoid them like the plague because you get those stupid little strings and everything from them, and you end up burning your fingers as well, or at least I do because I'm a bit of a klutz. But I did manage to make it work, and this turned out pretty good, I thought. I also made an orchid, and this is an orchid. And I made this actually first before I made this. I'm not sure how I feel about this orchid. Maybe if I bend the stem back a little bit, it looks too much like a kid's windmill, or a lollipop or something like that. But you get a bunch of these in an arrangement, and we're going to do the roses in different colors, make them rainbow colors. Yeah, maybe not realistic, but we're not going for realism. We're going for a splash of color. So we'll continue with these, but it's going to take some time. Plus, I get bored easily, so I move on to another project. And speaking of moving on to another project, I have this. If I pick it up, there it is. This is what they call a Dresden block. This shape is called a Dresden. It's actually a very old and traditional quilting pattern. Usually you do it by cutting out the pieces using a template that's shaped like this. I've always wanted to do a Dresden kind of quilt, but I wasn't looking forward to the idea of having to cut out so many pieces using templates. So I discovered an embroidery program that did it for me. This is in the hoop applique, which means that it draws out a line. You put your fabric down, a piece of fabric down, and it tacks it down to the backing, which is just fabric. And you cut it out around with a pair of applique scissors, and it's very easy to do. Once you've done it a couple of times, you can fly through that. And then it does all this very fancy embroidery on top of each piece. It'll also put in some of the quilting in the background. Now, this takes a long time. It takes about 3 hours to make one of these, and one of these blocks is about 8.5 inches square. So if I was to make a quilt out of this, it would take quite a long time. The other problem with making a quilt out of this is I have stabilizer on the back of this, which I can pull off. It's tearaway stabilizer, but I'm going to leave it on because it doesn't hurt it. This is not going to be a quilt. This is going to be possibly a wall hanging, possibly a table runner, a decorative piece, in other words. Something, that isn't going to get put in the wash. Although this would wash probably fine. I'd have to pull off most of the stabilizer, and you can see pulling the stabilizer off is a bit of a chore because of all of these intricate designs, and that's why I'm not going to do it. Now it does make the block a little bit on the stiff side, so that's why I don't think it would be very good as a quilt, but I think it's a really nice design. It's very intricate, as you can see. They actually call it a feathered Dresden, and I'm going to work on it, see how many more of these blocks over time I get, and then decide from there what it's going to become. I'm going to take this with me to the sewing retreat that we're going to on Thursday, and it's a 4-day retreat, and I'm going to talk more about that near the end of today's vlog, but this will be one of the projects that I'll be working on when I'm there. So I do think it's very elegant looking. Okay. So, speaking of creation, I had my art journal class yesterday, and of course the ladies did their ATC exchange. Now, there were about 3 ladies away. One was on holidays, one wasn't feeling well, and one was recovering from surgery. So there was only about 5 of us in the class, so I have less ATCs to show you, but nevertheless, I have ATCs to show you. And again, they're very creative. Of course, it was the February swap, and for this one, yeah, because this lady that did this is Pat. She wasn't at our last art journal class, so she was catching up with us and had created this one. Very abstract looking. Actually, she said that she used, back a year ago or so, we did some jelly plate printing, and we printed on labels. And she hadn't used her labels yet, so she decided this was a good use for her labels in her backgrounds. And of course, they're already sticky, so they'd stick onto the substrate no problem. Now for March, we have this one. It's embossing. This is Pat too. These both are Pat's. And very nice. And she did some embossing. And I think that was the theme of the month, embossing. And this one is by Darla. Very nice. The gold embossing on the purple. And this one's really cute. Caroline, sorry. Did this one, and she did both two kinds of embossing. She did dry embossing and wet embossing, and it's got kind of a springy kind of feel to it. And this one, I really love this one because it's got that vintage steampunk look. This is by Dina. Now Gina's husband brought these in for her because Gina's recovering from surgery right now. What a trooper, eh? And that's very nice. I love that stamp she used. And this one is by Joanne. Again, very nice. And I think she used oxide inks on this one. And yeah, that was all that we had this month. So these are going on to the wall of honor, which is getting pretty full. As I look over there now, it's just over on the far side. I see I've got to move a few things around to get the new cards up there, but I will. Okay, so that was yesterday, the art journal class. And so, YouTube channel of the week. This one is very entertaining. It's called Slow Mo Guys, and they essentially take all kinds of weird items, not that weird, some of them are everyday items, do something with them, and then slow it way down in slow motion. And the effect is incredible. It's just mesmerizing. Also, you learn something from this as well. This week's YouTube channel is very entertaining, has some humor to it, and you learn something as well. And it's called the Slow Mo Guys. And what these two characters do is they take a really expensive camera system and film things in real time. Weird things like 6-foot balloons, exploding soda bottles, swords going through glass, people going through glass. And then they slow it way down and show you the effect that this particular filmed action has. They explain also some of the science behind some of these things and some of the reactions that we can't catch with our naked eye. So if you want to watch a YouTube channel that is mystifying, educational, and just downright fun, check out the Slow Mo Guys. So the link to the Slow Mo Guys is in the resource list below, as is our latest Stephen and Walter Live. And this week we talked about whether or not marriage is obsolete. Now, why did I come up with a topic like that, you might wonder? Well, I have to admit, I was having trouble coming up with a topic for this week. And I have a list of possible topics. I think Walter compiled it from the internet and things, and we just keep a list, and I went through it, and this one jumped out at me. I didn't know how the discussion was going to go, but actually we got some very interesting perspectives. And in fact, sometimes we veered off just that topic and into some other areas as well. So if you didn't catch us live yesterday, the rebroadcast is up, and the link to it is listed below. I have a new Idiot Quilter episode 61. It's a project update for February, just the things that I've been working on. And I also have a little bonus video. It's just basically, it wasn't supposed to be funny. I was planning to do a very short little video clip of me cooking. You've seen Walter cook. I thought you might want to see me cook. And I was trying out a new recipe for making something called Dutch pancakes. This is something Walter had made a few days before, and they turned out great. So I thought I'd give it a try. Well, didn't have the same results as Walter. So if you want to laugh about my cooking skills, then check out the Stephen Cooks video, and the link is below as well. And there's also the link for this week's book of the week, which we'll come to in a few minutes. So that takes me to what's pissing me off this week. Coffee time. Okay. We discussed this on Stephen and Walter Live, and I even may have mentioned it in a past vlog. But of course you know that Harry and Meghan, as in Prince Harry and his wife Meghan, and their daughter, they had a little girl I think, have moved to Canada. They're living out in BC. Now their plan is that they're going to live in Canada for part of the year and part of the year back at the UK, and they're giving up their royal duties. Their attitude is that they're moving away from the royal duties because they'd like to have a more normal family life as they bring up their child right now and should probably have more in the future. And they want to stay away from the paparazzi. Of course, Harry had bad experiences with the paparazzi back when he was a child. You know, I mean, basically he blamed the paparazzi for the death of his mother, Princess Di, and all of that. So yeah, we get it. And come to Canada because after all, Canada, although we are different from the UK, we still have our roots with the UK and our connection with the UK. So, you know, it makes a logical sense. And that's fine. Great to have them here. No problem. But there is a problem. The problem is they have security. Very expensive security. Of course, because they're royals. And wherever the royals go, the RCMP or our security forces here in Canada follow. That is protocol. When royalty or diplomats or certain celebrities or that come to Canada, our government provides security for them, for their personal safety. Okay, I don't have a problem with that. But when you're becoming a resident of Canada, you should pay for your own security. And a lot of Canadians feel the way I do. We're not footing the bill because these two people decided that they want to move to Canada. Bully for them. Then, you know, if you're here, great, you're welcome here. You may be royalty, but we have a link to your mother, to the Queen, but it's only a symbolic link. She has absolutely no power in our country, and you have no power in our country. And you've got lots of money, so you pay for your own security. Don't take it out of our tax dollars. And people have made this concern known to our federal government. And the federal government basically said, not officially, but kind of implied that, yeah, no, we're not paying for the security for them. Well, guess what? We are. Although it's temporary. Yes, our government says that we're only paying for their security until the end of March. They're in negotiations with the UK government and with the Queen right now about all of that. What negotiations? No means no. All our government needs to do is say, hi, yes, Harry and Meghan are welcome to be here. I mean, after all, are they even getting landed immigrant status? Because they are immigrants. They're not native Canadians. I mean, we do have a friendly relationship with the UK, but nevertheless, if somebody comes from the UK to live here, they have to apply for landed immigrant status. And, you know, if they want to stay here, citizenship, just like in any other country. I doubt that Harry and his wife are applying for anything like that. Now, of course, maybe that's because they're only planning to spend part of the year here and part of the year back in the UK. I don't know how immigrant laws work, but I have a feeling they don't apply to Harry and Meghan. Well, the government said, yep, we're going to negotiate this. Should be no negotiation. It is simple. These are the Canadian taxpayer dollars. I don't imagine Harry and Meghan are paying anything into our government in terms of tax dollars. And if they are, maybe it's on the property they've bought in Victoria. I don't know. But really, no. So we'll see. This is very much a sore point with Canadians for rightful reasons, because we were just told that so far the security costs for Harry and Meghan that have come out of the taxpayer money has been $39 million. $39 million. Excuse me, $39 million could go into very much needed shelter for the homeless, reducing our overall tax bill, paying for all kinds of things, getting the government out of debt, all that kind of stuff. $39 million to have 24/7 security around two people who have made the choice to come to Canada. Now, we're a peaceful country, pretty much. They are living out in Victoria, on Vancouver Island. Basically, they're not living in a bad part of Canada. They're living in a very expensive, very beautiful part of Canada. They don't really have to worry about a lot of crime or people threatening them with a gun or a knife out there or anything like that. In fact, they don't really have to worry about that anywhere in Canada much. Never say never, but you know what I mean. So, 39 million? No, I don't think so. So our government better say no to UK. We're not footing any of the bill. I have a feeling we're still going to be footing part of the bill. Because if they're in negotiations, excuse me? Why? Why do we need that? They're pursuing careers here. At least Meghan is. She's got a production company. She's getting back into the TV business. I don't know what Harry's going to do. Maybe he'll be a stay-at-home dad and raise his child. Yeah, right. That's not going to happen. Maybe be the figurehead for some Canadian charities? I don't know. I don't care. They're more than welcome to be here. Just don't cost me anything as a taxpayer. So that's what's pissing me off. I think we're being taken for suckers. I think it's that colonial mentality that the UK still has towards everybody that was part of the empire once upon a time, back in Victoria's time. We aren't part of any empire. We are not the Dominion of Canada anymore, because that used to be what we were referred to, because we were still subjects of the British Crown. We're not anymore. We're an independent, separate country. We are Canada, the country. We are not Canada, the subservient empire colonized dominion of Great Britain. No. We're nice to Britain. We like them. We have roots in Britain, but that's it. So, they want to have security, they pay for it. Simple as that. Not us, not the Canadian people. So, Harry and Meghan, welcome to Canada. Okay, so moving on to home decor. Art on the wall, part 2.
Now, today's DIY for home decor is continuing with our art on a wall. And if you don't have any decent art, why not put other people's art up on the wall? And you can do this by putting up the cards and the ATCs and tags that friends have made for you and given to you. And so you can see I have all my ATCs that have been done by friends, and I have put them on the wall. Now, this not only makes the wall look very colorful, but it also serves as bragging rights to let other people think that I did all this art myself, and it's wonderful. Yeah, you could do that. I'm not going to say any more about that. But it also serves as an inspiration wall as well for ideas. So, don't ever underestimate the things that are made by hand, that are given to you by friends. Don't throw them in the garbage. Stick them on your wall.
So although I was kind of doing that one in humor, that is an example of the ATC wall that I have, and they're beautiful. And quite frankly, they're on my wall in my craft room because they give me inspiration. So although I was sort of being funny there in the video, really, quite seriously, if you want some art, just don't look any further than your friends or your own abilities to decorate up the room. Okay, product review. What's new? Nothing. Haven't bought anything. So moving on. So book of the week. This is by someone another person I love in the crafting world, especially in mixed media, and that's Dina Wakley. I'm sure you've heard of her. And if you haven't, check her out. Her videos on YouTube, just put in Dina Wakley, Wakley, and you're going to find lots of things she does. And she has several books out, but this book I really like, Art Journal Freedom, How to Journal Creatively with Color and Composition. And you know, when people are first getting into art journaling, or even mixed media, they are afraid because there aren't any rules. And actually, quite frankly, people who need rules, who are afraid to think outside of the box, who are afraid they're going to make a mess, shouldn't even attempt mixed media or art journaling, because there aren't any rules and it is messy and some things will work and some things won't work. But what she's tried to do is to place a level of comfort for people like that by actually giving them some, well, they're not rules, they're suggestions on techniques and tools to use and layout kind of things and how to play with the art. And the thing I like about her is that she doesn't get too serious about these things. Yes, this is all in a book and there's suggestions and there's a fair amount of detail in here talking about theories behind what she does, but essentially anything goes. And she's just showing you how to be comfortable with that idea. So really great book. I learned quite a bit from this book when I worked my way through it. Actually, I need to go through it again because some of the things that are in here I have kind of forgotten about, I've lost touch with. If you want to get this book, I originally paid $28.50 Canadian for it when I bought it. So of course, as I always do, I looked it up on Amazon.ca and it's $28.22 on Amazon.ca. So really a few cents more actually. And I think that may have been free shipping if you had Prime. Otherwise, I'm not sure what the shipping was. And there may have been some used versions of it as well on there that you could check out. But a great book. You can probably still find this book in certain bookstores that have a section on creativity or art or crafting as well, because it's not that old. I'm not sure. When was it published? If I can find it here quickly. Well, I don't know. Nope. Can't seem to find a copyright date on this. But nevertheless, it's only a few years old. So I highly recommend it if you want to get into mixed media and art journaling specifically. All right. So that takes us to what I'm working on now. Now, I told you last week was the last installment of the iCraft series, all of their different kits. I have covered every one of their kits that they have available now. And of course, those are all in a separate playlist so that you don't have to watch them and find different parts of them in the vlogs. They're right there in one nice little grouping, standalone videos. So if you ever get one of those kits and you're not sure how to put it together, just check out a video for it because it's there for your reference. And so now we're moving on to a new project. Now this project is going to take me some time because I'm really not sure what I'm doing with it. For the longest time, I've wanted to make what's called a grimoire. A grimoire is basically a book of spells or a book of shadows. Yes, it is technically part of witchcraft and things like that, but this is for fun and creativity. I am not a witch, I am not a warlock, I am not a Wiccan, I'm not any of those things. I'm not into voodoo or strange satanic rituals. I just think the style of grimoires is really interesting. So I have been gathering bits and pieces from my stash to put together to make a grimoire. Now this is going to take me some time, and I have started it, and this is what I'm using, and this is my first installment, which will be many installments coming in the process of creating this grimoire.
For some time now, I've been really fascinated by special journals that I have seen made on YouTube and on the web. And a lot of these have themes, you know, scrapbook albums, trip albums, general notes albums, things like that. But one type of album I've really been fascinated by is called a grimoire, which is basically a book of spells. Now, before I go any further, I don't want you to think that I'm into black magic, voodoo, or any of that kind of stuff. I'm not a witch, a wizard, a warlock, or a Wiccan. Okay? I just like the look of those kind of books. So I thought I might attempt to make something like that, just for fun. It's a great way, I think, to use up some of the things I have in my stash, and maybe to explore three-dimensional elements that I might find at charity shops and just when I'm out and about that have sort of a gothic, wizardy, you know, kind of look to them. Now, a friend of mine very recently gifted to me this book that she had found at a charity shop called Wizardology. And she knew that I had an interest in making a grimoire, so she thought I might find this as a great resource. Now, this book, it's a really nice book. It's got really great pictures and things in it. I haven't actually read what's in here, but it just looks really fascinating. And I'm thinking, she thought maybe I would take this and make it an unaltered book, but I really don't want to do it in this book. And my first idea was I didn't want to destroy anything in this book, but there are some fascinating pictures and things that I might either cut out or I might just scan into my computer and print them on other paper. But it also has these three-dimensional elements in it that I think are really kind of neat. And I might copy some of these ideas for my own grimoire. So it's a great little resource book to give me some ideas of how to make, you know, different elements to make my book look interesting. So we'll come back to this later on. Now, this process is going to take some time, and the first thing I need is something to create as a grimoire. My first idea was to actually make a journal from scratch, a hard-covered journal. I haven't made one of those in a long time. But then I got thinking about things I've got lying around that, you know, I didn't really want to throw out, but are basically useless to me now. And this is like last year's agenda. Now, I bought this at a Japanese dollar store kind of a thing. I think it wasn't $1 though, it cost me about $6. And I used it last year as my agenda. And so I have some of the pages filled in. But I'm thinking, because it's got this really nice spiral bound section to it, and it does have a laminated cover and back, that I might be able to use this as my grimoire if I pull out some of the pages and gesso over top of them and add background papers and things like that. So that's what I'm going to attempt to do with this. Now, the one thing I like too about this is got these tabs, but these tabs I have written on in most cases. Now, I could leave the pages as they are and just gesso over all of them, which will take some time, and that may cover these up, but I'm afraid that some of this will bleed through. So what I'm thinking I'll do is, you can tell in my first in January I got real excited and I started making notes day by day and things like that. Well, that kind of petered off after a while. February I did sort of the same, but by the time I got to March, I don't think I was doing that at all. I wasn't. So there's all these blank pages that I think gesso would cover over very nicely. So what I think I'll do is I'll tear out the pages that I have written on and leave the ones that I haven't, and then I'll gesso over top of those. Now, I'm not sure so much. I like these little tabs, but they are only paper, and I have written on them because of the way it was designed. So I think I'll pull those right out. Now, I may put in tabbed pages into the grimoire. I'm not sure yet, but I'll just make my own for that. So that's what I'm going to do to get started with this. I'm going to tear out pages I've written on, see what I have left over. This is going to make this less thick, but then again, if I put in three-dimensional elements in it, it will accommodate those better. Also, I'm a little concerned about the covers because they are laminated, and I'm not sure if gesso is going to stick to them or it's just going to peel off. So I might have to find something else, or I'll just use scrapbook papers or something like that, just and some matte medium, and stick down over the top of them. So this is all a big experiment. This is going to take some time, and I'll keep you up to date as to my progress with all of this. So I have finished gessoing the pages and the covers of this old agenda book. I did take out some of the pages because you can see there's quite a few in here already, and I didn't think I needed any more than that. Plus I want to leave more room for 3D embellishments. So I've got them gessoed. I didn't completely cover them so that you can't see some of what was on the original pages. It's still coming through. But by the time I get done putting other layers of material on this, that's not going to be evident anymore. So now I want to age the pages. I'm not going to worry about the covers for now because I think I'm going to cover those with something. But I want to make the pages a bit aged. And I could do it as tea dye, but why go to the bother when you can get products like distress sprays? Now, I have not used my distress sprays in quite a long time, so I don't know if these nozzles are clogged or not. And I picked out 3 shades of browns, tea dye, frayed burlap, and vintage photo. And my idea is to just spray these on each one of the pages. I'll probably have to dry them with a heat gun, so this process is going to take a while, and see if I get sort of an aged look. Now, I'm not concerned about this being the coverage of this being complete, because again, this is just another layer that I'm putting on here, and there will be other layers of products on top of that. So I'm going to start with my lightest spray, which I think is the tea dye, and I'm just going to see what happens here. Now, this is a brand new bottle. Brand new as in I've probably had it on my shelf for 4 years, but it's never had the cellophane taken off of it. So we'll see what happens here. And I'll add a little bit of frayed burlap and a little bit of vintage photo. Okay, now I think I'm going to blot this. So I'm just going to grab a paper towel. And I think I'm going to like this. Yeah, I'm kind of liking that effect. And then I'll take my heat tool. And this shouldn't take too long to dry. Now I notice there's some things that were on the page originally that for some reason are peeking up through, but that's okay because I don't mind that at all. It gives it a bit of a more rustic look. So just dry it until it's not glossy looking anywhere. Okay, that looks pretty good. So I'm going to continue, and I'm going to do this to all the pages in here, and then we'll take a look at what I might be doing with it after that. I'm about halfway through the book, and I thought I'd show you my process. So I just take my sprays, and as I said, I'm using 3 different colors, and I'm just letting them fall where they may, and then I'm taking a paper towel. It's a bit of a messy process, and I'm just dabbing. And I'm just blotting up here some of the liquid that has pooled. And I'm really liking the effect that I'm getting here. And then I just take my dryer, and it dries very quickly. And the one advantage of having the pages already gessoed, besides covering up what was already on the page initially, is that it stops the distress inks from soaking completely through the paper. Now these pages are getting fairly saturated, but that's okay because I think it gives it kind of an aged look. And I'm thinking down the road that I might try tearing the edges of the pages again to give it that worn look. But for now, I'm just going to carry on here with doing the rest of the pages in this book, just in this same manner. So I have the entire agenda all coded now, and it's now looking like an aged book, as you can see. And what I also did was I sprayed each of these pages with workable fixative just to seal the distress inks because they will run when they're wet. Well, now that I've done that, I'm ready to do the background pages, the initial background pages, and that's what I'll do in the next segment. So, wouldn't you know, I've changed my mind. I really like this, how it turned out. This would be great, but I've come across a different album, and this is a Graphic 45 album, and I really like the way it's constructed. It's very sturdy. There's a lot of pages in it, and has these pages that have blank tags as well, and there's even pockets inside here. So I'm thinking this is more versatile than the other one that I spent all that time distressing. But I'll save that for a project in the future. This is what I'm going to use for the Grimoire, I've decided. So the first thing I'm going to have to do with this is I'm going to have to design some background pages. And that's what I'm going to do in the next segment. So, speaking of finding things to use for future development of the Grimoire, I did buy, and I didn't mention these in my new products because I thought it was more appropriate to mention it with the Grimoire. I bought a couple of things yesterday at my scrapbooking store, Class Act, where I teach my art journaling class, and they have a line of papers from a company called Stamperia, and this is an 8x8 set called Cosmos, and I just love the images. Now the images don't really have anything to do with, you know, magic and spells and stuff, but they've got a nice appeal to them. And so I thought I could use elements from these pages for various embellishments in my grimoire. So I got that. And I also picked up a couple of metallic wax rubs, one in copper and one in pewter, or iron they call it. Now, I have used these kind of things before, but not this particular brand. This brand is Art Alchemy. And I'm thinking I have some chipboard elements I want to use in this grimoire, and I want them to look kind of old, vintage, metal-like, and I thought maybe these would help me create that effect. So those are going in my stash of elements for the grimoire, and you'll probably see them and how I use them in future segments of the whole process video for that. Okay, so events in the past week. Some more coffee. Update on my mother. Nothing new there. We went over to visit her on Tuesday, as we always do. She seemed to be very coherent and very much with it. So I thought that was good. When we visited her the last couple of times, she seemed a little more out of it and a little bit depressed. So I don't know, maybe we're getting more daylight hours now. Maybe that's giving her a lift in her spirits. I'm really not sure. It's always hit and miss with my mother what kind of mood she's in. And I just have to accept it because there's not much I can do about it. So anyways, for right now, she's fine. You get bored with this? I always talk about my mother. Am I a mummy's boy? I'm not a mummy's boy. Actually, you know, one reason, just as an aside here, why I do talk about my mother, I know there's other people out there that are experiencing similar things, and I want them to know they are not alone, because you feel very much alone when you're dealing with an elderly parent. Because there aren't any rules. There are books. I have read books. But you know, quite frankly,
no matter how well written and how well intended those books are about this, it's not your life. Everybody's life and experience is a little bit more unique. We all bring different things to the table, and we do the best that we can. And it's surprising what you do end up doing. Just because the situation happens, you have to deal with it. It's hard. It is hard. It's hard to see your parents aging, for one thing, because when you're a kid, your parents go on forever, you think. There's a certain level of guilt that's in you too. You always feel you're inadequate, you're not doing enough. At the same time, it annoys you to no end, and then you get annoyed with yourself because of the way you're feeling, because I'll admit, I've had thoughts in my head. They haven't been kind thoughts where, I thought, well, you're basically like, okay, you're not doing anything with your life anyways. Why don't you just die and get on with it? And then you'll be a great relief off my shoulders. And then I feel bad. I feel bad right now for saying that. But, it's that guilt thing. Also, there's a part of you inside that realizes you're aging as well. And for me anyways, it's like, I never want to say I'm not going to be like my mother. I'll never be in that circumstance. I would like to think that, but never say never. I am sure my mother never thought she would be in this situation she's in now either. But she is. And I don't want to be. Does anybody? But there is a possibility we could be. So, what do you do? So anyways, that's why I give you updates on my mother, because I'm sure there's other people out there that are going through this or about to go through it. I have a friend right now who I think is about to go through it, and he's in denial. And yes, I was too, when this all started with my parents as well. But you got to get over the denial and just work at it. Do what you have to do. It's not easy. It's not easy. Okay, that was kind of a somber note, wasn't it? Already talked about the art journal class. What we did in the art journal class was we experimented with doing a transfer technique on jelly plates. Now, we had done some of these before with mixed results. There was a new technique that the jelly art people, they have a YouTube channel, and they're the people who made the original jelly plates, were trying with StazOn ink. So we tried it. It kind of worked, kind of didn't work, kind of a thing. But we just had fun experimenting. Unfortunately, the stuff we were experimenting with did give off fumes. I don't know about the rest of them, but I got a little high from the ink. StazOn ink is a solvent ink, and we were also using alcohol, not the kind you drink, and alcohol inks and things like that. And I don't know if it was a combination of the fact that I hadn't eaten anything during the day. I had intended to. You know that I'm on this intermittent fasting diet, and so I only eat between 12 and 8 during the day, and then 16 hours of fasting, which most of those 16 hours I'm asleep. Well, not for 16 hours, but part of that. So yesterday when I left to go and set up for my class, I thought, well, I'll stop at my favorite little bakery place and pick up a bagel. I often do this. Well, I haven't been there in a while. Yeah, no, it was closed. In fact, it was emptied out, and there's a big sign for lease on the front door. It's been there for years. I guess they decided to retire or something like that. I don't know. So, no bagel. And I really didn't have time to go hunting for a place. I could have gone to McDonald's and something like that, but I didn't really want to. So I decided, I'll just have some coffee when I get to the store to set up, and I won't worry about it. Whoa. I think the combination of the solvent ink fumes and not having anything to eat made me really lightheaded. So before we did Stephen and Walter Live, when I got home, I downed a peanut butter sandwich real quick for that, and then had a little cheese too. So I was fine afterwards. But that's what you get when you play around with chemicals on an empty stomach, I guess. And I know you're going to say, well, you're an idiot. That kind of stuff you should always use in a well-ventilated area and all that. Yeah, I know that. I know it. Doesn't mean I necessarily do it. So what's coming up? Excitement. At least for me. Walter and I are going on a sewing retreat. It's the second one we've ever been to, sponsored by Ultimate Sewing, our local quilt store. They're so much fun. We went last year, had a blast, get a lot of stuff done. So that's on Thursday. We leave Thursday morning for that. We come back Sunday after lunch. So there may or there may not be a Stephen and Walter live this Sunday. I think there probably will be, because this place is only about an hour and a half away from here that we're going to. And we should be home in plenty of time to do it. And we'll talk all about our adventures at the retreat. We have a few things planned for the ladies. There's just Walter and I are the only gentlemen at this. Noticed I called us gentlemen. Yeah. And about 35, I'm not sure how many are going. I think about 30, 35 ladies and something like that. And we are going to have something special planned for the ladies as well. We did a little thingy last year. It was an impromptu kind of thing. This year it's a little bit more organized. We have decided, and we approached Ultimate Sewing back a few months ago. We thought it needed a little bit more livening up, because I've been to other retreats, scrapbooking retreats, and I went recently to my guild's retreat, and they have some little contests and games that are just fun. They're great icebreakers, and you play these, throughout the days you're there doing your sewing. And so we're doing that, and there'll be prizes involved in all of this, and we are going to have some costumes. Matilda Mudslinger and Gladass Happy Bum are making an appearance, and if you don't know who they are, you will once I show you some video of that next week or whatever. And we're doing a bingo, a special bingo designed for people at a sewing retreat, and it should be a scream and a half. So I'm really looking forward to it. Our one main problem though is we take everything but the kitchen sink with us. We'll have 4 sewing machines between the two of us, because I'm taking my big machine, which does the embroidery. I'm taking my smaller machine because I intend to embroider while I'm sewing something. Walter's doing some similar. He's taking his sewing machine and his embroidery machine. Then we have some little tables we're taking. They provide a table, big table, but can never have too many tables. So we take small collapsible tables, which become like our ironing station, layout station. Then there's all the project boxes. Now I have about 5 projects that I'm taking with me. Will I get them all done while I'm there? No, but I like to have lots of variety and stuff to work on. I get tired of with one thing, I'll go on to another thing, and that kind of deal. So I have them all in project boxes, all laid out, all ready to go. Then there's our tools. Then there's our stools. Now, you're going to say, well, are you going to a place that doesn't have any tables or stools or chairs? No. They have tables set up for us, large tables, and they have chairs. But the chairs they have are the kind of chairs that, banquet style chairs. We have stools that we sit on when we sew. That have wheels and much more comfortable. So those have to go in the car. And our clothes have to go in the car. Not that we are taking a lot of clothes with us, kind of a thing. You can sew in your jammies, they say. I don't think they want to see us in our jammies. Why is that? Well, for me, I don't own any jammies, so enough said. And yeah, there's just a lot of bric-a-brac to go as well. I think I take stabilizers, embroidery threads, thread. It starts to add up. So Walter's a little afraid we might not be able to get it all in the car. And I says, we will get it all in the car. We will make it fit, for sure. We'll get it there. But yeah, there's a whole lot of stuff to take with you when you go on a retreat. But as I said, I'm looking forward to this. It's going to be a lot of fun. And you'll hear all about it on Stephen and Walter Live next week. And I'll probably even have some video that, if I don't show that on the live broadcast, I will definitely have pieces of it inserted into next week's vlog for you. Okay, so that's about it. That's the week. I hope you have a good week. Hopefully we'll see you on Stephen and Walter Live at 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time this coming Sunday. If we're not there, you'll know why. We're just too exhausted from the retreat and didn't get home in time. Whatever, but I think we'll be there. And yeah, so have a good one. Talk to you later. Thanks for joining me today. Bye-bye for now.